The interesting thing is, even when we've done something for decades, there was a beginning and a learning phase for that as well. But what happens is we forget about that. And
Yeah.
we reached another age. I mean, literally reached another age in our own
Mm,
lives. And sometimes
yes.
that can add to those levels of fear.
Welcome to Create Your Own Economy with Bunmi Ajibade, the podcast that empowers corporate professionals ready to break free and transition into entrepreneurship with confidence and clarity, as well as business owners looking to grow and scale their businesses. If you're exhausted from building other people's dreams, leaving you little time or energy to focus on what truly matters to you, you are in the right place. Each week, we provide actionable strategies, expert interviews, and real-life success stories to help you turn your ideas into thriving business. Ready to take bold, clear steps toward life and business you deserve? Let's get started. Are you a caregiver who is always on for everyone else, but you are constantly running on an empty? Do you see caregiving as something that you love so much? You love to care for people, and you might want to consider it as a business opportunity. And also, if peace isn't a luxury for you, but a lifeline, you want to listen to today's episode, because I have my friend and my accountability partner, Miss Carol Stokes, here to really share her journey from her corporate work, from being a caregiver, and now from my experience being a coach to very many people. So I welcome all of you to today's episode of Create Your Own Economy. And as I said, my friend Carol, she's going to share her story. You know, we love people that care for others. We love them because they put in their all, their soul, everything in caring for family, for friends, even those people that work in hospitals. And one of the things I've seen about caregivers is that they're compassionate, but at the same time, they can burn out easily. So today, my friend is going to talk about going from chaos to clarity, one woman's peace plan for caregivers. That is so beautiful because that is who she is. Hello, Miss Carol. Welcome
Hello.
to the episode.
Oh, hello, Bunmi. Thank you so much for having me. I am looking forward to our conversation today. I'm ecstatic to be here and talk with you and hopefully shed some light and encouragement and hope for other women caregivers.
Perfect. This is what our audience, this is what they are looking for. Because at times we see that caregivers don't want to talk, don't want to speak out because they don't want to be perceived as complaining. They don't want whoever they are supporting or the family around to say, why is she complaining? And
Yes.
they are not really complaining. They just want to vent. They just need clarity. There's so much chaos because some of them, they have a full-time job, right? I know you know
Right.
one or two things about that. They have their family. They have other members of they have so many things that they are doing, and they are just overwhelmed, and they just want to talk without somebody saying, why are you complaining? So let me say one or two things about Miss Carol. Let me read a little bit about her bio before we continue. Carol Stokes is a caregiver coach, She's an advocate, a writer that is passionate about supporting women and families through the tough, beautiful, and often overwhelming realities of caregiving. Drawing on her many years of power of attorney and daily advocate for a loved one facing mental illness and aging challenges, Carol crafts practical tools rooted in compassion and lived experience, not theory. She is the creator of the Peace Plan, a simple, actionable framework that helps caregivers move from chaos and burnout to clarity and confidence, empowerment and peace of mind. Entrepreneurs' well being and livelihood do not have to suffer. Through her story, her writing, and her one on one coaching, Carol's mission is to help caregivers reclaim their sense of self, restore relationships, and rediscover hope, even in the hardest seasons. She believes that no caregiver should ever feel invisible, alone, or powerless. If you are a caregiver listening to us now, I just want to stop to say, we see you. You are not invisible. We see the hard work. We see the hard work that you put in as you support your loved one on, even if it's a job that you do, you still put your heart in it. I want to say you are not alone. You are not invisible because we see you and you are powerful. What do you want to say to them before we go on?
I want to first echo what you just said. Not only do we, and add to that, not only do we see you, we love you. Sometimes you can feel as though you are forgotten, and that's not necessarily the same as being seen as invisible, but forgotten that you too need care. And so while you're busy pouring into others, just know that we're here to pour into you as well, to keep you balanced so you can do what it is that you need to do.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. So let's go back to your story. You are an attorney.
Yes,
You
yes,
are an attorney.
yes.
So, what were some of the biggest emotional or professional shifts you faced when you were transitioning from being an attorney to caregiver to entrepreneur?
Oh, Boomy, that is such a good question. So interesting. Honestly, I would have to say one of the biggest emotional shifts for me was going into a territory where I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't have a map. So you go to law school, you start practicing, you have mentors, you have some guidance. But to be pulled into something else, and I'll explain why I say pulled, but to find yourself somewhere else where you feel like you've been pulled into it, you don't know what to do. You don't know where you begin. What are the rules? And so for me, I ended up transitioning simply because something kept calling me. We
Mm.
usually think that we're choosing something in life, and you hear me say this probably wherever our conversation goes. I'll probably say it quite a few times, but we think we're choosing life, and I see it as life choosing us. I kept
Yes.
hearing a calling to do something different. So in my practice of law, I saw the same situations over and over, just different people. And I
Mm.
start to think a couple things. One, okay, what's happening here? What are the core lessons we need to be learning not to repeat ourselves in life? And the other thing that I kept hearing was, naturally a teacher. I've always seen myself as a teacher, someone who wanted to help people understand. so that they could make the best informed decisions possible. And frankly, it was from that point that I started self-publishing books based on what I was
Mm.
seeing with my clients practicing law. Um, and that started with bankruptcy because I was doing a huge practice primarily with personal injury and bankruptcy and wills and estates. So I started with the finance management for young people that grew into doing workshops locally. Then, as I was doing the wills, and you have family member who call on you to do different things for them, I actually had a relative to reach out and ask me to be power of attorney for a relative of mine. Now, I have to tell you, as many times as I've prepared wills, as many times I've talked to people about doing living wills and power of attorneys for themselves, make sure you pick someone. You select
Mm.
someone who is business minded and
Mm.
responsible because it is a big job to be left responsible for someone else, whether they're still living or whether they have
Mm.
passed on, and to be responsible enough to carry out their wishes. That was a given. Make sure you
Wow.
understand you're selecting the right people.
Wow. Wow. There were two words that you used, and I really want to go back to those two words. Going into entrepreneurship, even being a caregiver, or whatever career, we have to get to the point in our lives that is not a job. You are not the one going after whatever it is, but you need to feel that pull. You need to feel that calling, a pull, a calling for you to do something. And most of the time, when you have that pull or when you have that calling, there's a feeling of inadequacy because most of the times, what you are pulled to do, you might not have the skill set to do it, or you might think you don't have the skill set, but your lived experience, if you really want to sit down and think about it, is what is preparing you to take that action. Is what is preparing you so that it is pulling you. There's a calling, there's a movement. Do you feel that?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for saying that. And actually, even to this day, that is one of the lessons. The latter of what you said is something that I instill, teach, guide, encourage my clients to know and understand that you do have the know how. That is why you're being called to do something different. That is also why we're being alerted. Anytime we have just this strong feeling, an emotional thought, emotions, those thoughts, anything that keeps nagging at us, it
Mhm.
is a calling to
Yes.
take a look at what's happening now in your life and with you. We are so good about looking externally, but something,
Mm.
whatever you want to call it, I call it spirit, something is
Mm.
speaking to your soul. And so
Yes.
that is when you stop and look. And we are not called to do that which we don't know how to do. We might need
Mhm.
some fine tuning, some picking up additional tools, some additional knowledge, but the core of what's needed, we have because it comes
Mhm.
from a true calling, which means you have the passion and you have a
Yes.
gift in there. Whatever that gift
Yes.
might be, you already have it. So, absolutely, we do have that. And it can be tricky to move beyond that feeling of inadequacy, but we have to be vigilant enough and responsible enough to keep going and trust that whatever else we need is going to show up. And so
Mm.
I think I find, Bumi, a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in those feelings of inadequacy, and
Mhm.
they have this fear of
Yes.
not being able to fulfill whatever that job is. And you were speaking earlier during the introduction about whether it's work. is at home, whatever the case may be, there is so much that's on us. And
Yes.
unfortunately, I think sometimes we misread those negative or weighing emotions that I was referring to.
Mm.
So, for example, for me, when I go back to that transition, answering that call of the relative to be the power of attorney for another relative, quite frankly, it was a great aunt who many years ago, and I know the exact year, and I know the year on the document, 2010. So over 15 years ago, I said, yes, I would be the power of attorney for my cousin. Something, after I said yes, something in the back of my mind said, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. And a couple of weeks or a month later, I contacted my aunt and I said, I'm sorry, I changed my mind. I don't want to do this. Now, that was the fear that I was talking
Yes.
about, right?
Yes.
I have guided and advised many people on choosing the right person to have someone in charge, whether it's an estate or over the business of a loved one or whatever the case may be. I knew it was a big job. I had experience on the other side, and I still was reluctant. But here's also what happened with me. There was another nagging part of me that never officially withdrew
Mm.
being part of
Mm-hmm.
it. And I can tell you what that part was. I don't know exactly. I knew it was a big job to take it on, and that had to do with some of the calling my aunt to say, no, I don't want to do this. But I know exactly why I hung in there. My cousin was in need.
Oh,
That was the pull. That was the calling, a need.
yeah, you need.
So I became officially, I still was, I walked into those footsteps, those shoes of being a power of attorney for someone.
Mm.
And that is what got me in the door, so to speak, or on the path of caregiving. And it is so funny. Since that time, I have learned so much more, not only about caregiving, but
Mm-hmm.
about myself.
Wow.
And I think also for entrepreneurs, that can be scary too, because forward, every step forward shows something else. There's another layer of
Mm.
our life experience. And that too can be scary because so often we're looking at, okay, what now? Or I can't take more. Oh, not
Mm.
something else.
Yeah.
But what it calls for is again stopping, breathing, and taking stock of
Yes.
what's going on. What are those messages? Why are you feeling this way? Why are you feeling
Yes.
overwhelmed?
Yes.
What do you mean nothing else now? And so I find when we have those kinds of emotions and we feel a bit overwhelmed and maybe even some uncertainty, it's time to take stock in what is actually happening, what is on my plate, really
Mm.
diving deep into why I'm feeling this way, because there could be something that A, we need to be doing,
Mm-hmm.
not doing.
Mm-hmm.
And for women, the not doing, I have learned, I know intimately, is the hardest thing to do, to
Yeah.
not do, to not do.
Yes.
That is huge, especially for, well, I say especially for, but it is definitely huge for entrepreneurs because you're trying to use the words of so many others, climb this ladder, appear to be superwoman, do the job, not be seen as inadequate or incompetent, run home and be seen as the same superwoman at home, whether you
Mm-hmm.
have kids or not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah. It is a lot. I tell you, it is a lot. You have unpacked so many things You see, I was writing. You have so much, unpacked so many things, especially for entrepreneurs, for those career professionals who know there's a calling, there's a pulling, there's a need that they can really see around them, and they have a calling, to really walk within that territory. But we talk about stress, we talk about burnout, we talk about how do I do it? Because there is this fear of transitioning from what is comfortable, the
Yes.
job that they have done for so long,
Yes.
being an attorney for over 30 years. Um, I was in the corporate world for over 30 years. So, being all those things, you know what to do. If you really don't, it will not be a lot, and you know where to go get it. But then transitioning into something that you are like, ooh, I got this pull, I have this calling and all that, but I'm afraid. But what I heard you say is that when you answer the calling, you will see opportunity to grow into that calling. You don't have to
Absolutely.
come in with everything ready.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the interesting thing is, even when we've done something for decades, there was a beginning and a learning phase for that as well. But what happens is we forget about that, and
Yeah.
we reached another age. I mean, literally reached another age in our own
Mm.
lives. And sometimes
Yes.
that can add to those levels of fear. It is not necessarily easy for anyone to make a transition, but
Mhm.
certainly the older
Mhm.
we get can make it harder for some. And
Yeah. Yeah.
certainly, there is some idea of when society is evolving,
Mhm.
and we think it might be even harder to stand up to today's standards in trying to do these different things as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the path to the peace with all of it starts
Yes.
with processing your feelings. So
Yes.
often, regardless of the why, so often we're just burying what we're feeling and saying, I have to do this. I have to keep going. And we're not paying attention to our own feelings. And what happens with that
Yes.
is the stress only mounts. We're not superhuman beings. We just aren't. We're not superwoman, superwomen.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
when we don't acknowledge the overwhelm or the stress, or we're starting to feel the burnout, or we're just wondering, is this for me? And feeling, well, maybe I've tackled something I'm not ready for, whatever the questions might be. A lot of times those questions come up because you feel lost. And my
Mm-hmm.
experience has been that feeling of overwhelm
Mm-hmm.
can mean lack of planning.
Mm.
That feeling of fear can stem from judgment, whether it's our own judgment or external judgment. So, all this goes back to understanding that those feelings that we have, to process them, that is the first, again, that's what that P stands for in the
The
P.
P, okay, yeah, because I was going to say, you came up with a peace plan
Yes,
because um, the caregiver experiences burnout. The caregiver, they are under stress. The caregiver, they don't prioritize themselves and have self-care.
right.
And for them to continue to do what they love to do without being overwhelmed, without complaining, without really shutting down, real mentally shutting down, there needs to be a plan in place. And that is where your peace plan for caregivers, that is where it comes in. And so tell us about that plan. What does this stand for? And how does that peace plan help caregivers to move from chaos to clarity? Because this is what it is.
Absolutely. So again, peace plan, PEACE. The P stands for processing your feelings. Without that, women caregivers are going 100 miles an hour, trying to keep going,
Mm,
doing for everyone else without understanding why you might be feeling
mm,
uncertain or lost or overwhelmed. Without understanding your own feelings, you're burying those and making them worse, and they will materialize into illness, exhaustion,
mm, mm,
and even more lack of clarity. Because without a clear mind and a healthy body, what can you do? You cannot function
mm.
well as you
No,
need
you
to
can't.
for yourself or anyone else. So you first have to recognize, you have to process your own feelings. And of course, I go much deeper with clients, but that is the first thing, is understanding that, because only with that first step can you even understand or know where you are, whether or not there's something you need to take a look at. What has you feeling the way that you do? What has you in fear? What
Mm,
has you feeling burnout?
mm,
The E in that piece stands for establishing boundaries.
mm.
So often, when we hear talk about boundaries, we're just talking about maybe personal relationships, or it can even be on the job that someone overstepped their boundaries with saying something or taking on something that was mine. And, they overstepped their boundaries, and this is my work. I'm responsible for it. It is so much more than that. I can tell
Mhm.
you from my caregiving experience, it means any interaction whatsoever. Bumi, I have had to reach out to institutions to file complaints.
Mm,
To me, that speaks to boundaries. You're letting
mm,
agencies and the representatives know that no, you cannot do or say anything that you want to, not to my loved one, not to anyone
mhm.
else's loved one. And it means also knowing that you have rights, what people
Yes.
can and cannot do. Establishing boundaries also, and I want to share this because this becomes really important. It also means understanding that different family members or friends, or even your community members in organizations, might have a role to play.
Mm,
And establishing boundaries, I remember because boundaries work both ways, letting people know what they can and cannot do. And also with you saying what you will and will not do.
mm.
It is really important for a caregiver, particularly as women. We've been conditioned to give, give, and give, and we don't stop to
Yes.
think, is this something I should do?
Mm,
In whose best interest is this? And so you're talking about your own boundaries as well, even if we're talking about institutions, organizations, family members. I've had more than enough family members just come out and say, well, that's your job. And it's my
oh,
job because I'm the female.
yeah, right?
Yes, it will actually tell you that. Whereas they're sitting back doing nothing. They don't know what it takes. They've never
Hmm.
engaged in caregiving for anyone. And how dare
Yeah.
you tell me because of gender, this is my job to run myself into the ground? No.
Hmm.
So understanding establishing boundaries is huge. The A stands for accessing resources. We don't
Mm,
always know that there are resources out there. Earlier we were talking about venturing into something new. We can feel rather inadequate about taking a new path on a journey. And so, whereas for the most part, we are equipped, that's why we're being called forward. But of
mm.
course, we can pick up tools, we can learn new things.
Yes.
We're always learning or should be learning. So, that's not a big deal. Even when you think you are skilled and ready to go with something, there is more learning.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
Something I learned from my grandmother growing up, and I don't remember under what context this was, but it was one of the biggest lessons she left with me many, many, many decades ago. And I still live with it clearly. And that is, even if I don't know the answer to something, somebody else out there knows.
Yes.
And you just start asking. And if that person you ask a particular question, if they don't know the answer, you don't know where that's going to lead. They might know someone who might know.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that these are interesting times because so much um, has been restricted. There's so many services that have been eliminated or diminished. But I'm here to tell you, we have always been community based. We will continue to be
Yes.
community based, which means we have one another. And you will be surprised at what people are willing to do if you just ask. I had a client who was struggling with her adult son.
Mm.
Her adult son lived in the household with her for some years. He was still is, semi
Mm.
independent. He could function some with a part time job, but he has mental health diagnoses. She was at a point where she was ready for him to leave the household. She was ready for him to be set up in his own housing with whatever kind of assistance was required and so forth. She was also divorced, is divorced, and she never had success with her ex-husband playing a significant role in the care or the guidance or just assisting and just being a voice with their son. When we worked together, we came up with a plan how to approach the ex-husband,
Mm.
how to engage him. And this goes back to um, establishing boundaries.
Mm.
Um, and I'm kind of tying in the next one, communications, effective communications. I guided her. That's the way I'll put it. I guided her on how to communicate with the ex-husband. So many
Yeah.
times we decide up front who will and will not do something.
Yeah.
So often we don't realize, even if we've had a history or have a history that hasn't necessarily felt supportive, we don't realize that we bring a certain amount of, I'll say, baggage with us. So
Yes.
when we approach someone, we
Mm-hmm.
don't realize that we're carrying negativity. So I
Mm-hmm.
gave her a different perspective, a different framework. She was amazed that the ex husband was so on board and he took it
Look
and
at
ran.
that.
Yes,
Wow.
we have power. And I know I'm going back to the beginning, but we have the core of what we need. We just need help sometimes
Mm.
recognizing that core
Yeah.
power and gift that we
Yes.
have and getting out of
Yes.
our own way to
Mm.
make something work. So I've already tied in the C, communicating effectively. That's the C in
Mm.
peace.
Yeah.
And then the last E, embracing self care.
Wow.
Because as I have said, if we're not functioning as we need to do, we're not helping anyone. We're not helping our
Mm.
loved ones. We're not helping ourselves. Because unfortunately, self care has been taught or is often seen as being selfish. But I'm here to tell you it is neither selfish nor narrow visioned. There's a bigger
Mm.
picture there, and it
Yeah.
is one to support everyone. Self care is not only essential, but it should be a non negotiable. It's a non negotiable. It is absolutely necessary because if we're not taking care of ourselves, we are not taking care of our physical health, our emotional
Yes.
health. When those are not in alignment,
Mm. Alignment.
When they are not in alignment, then who are we? I have a client that, I don't know, just a few weeks ago, I was having a discussion with her and I was following up with her because she's been struggling. She has spent so many years, in her own words, all her life, she has cared for everybody but herself.
Mm.
And now she's
Yeah.
in need of help. Now she is, and she's not feeling well. She just lost her only child, who was killed, and she is really struggling. And even in her grieving, she is still looking out for or caring for other people. And she is in the bed now and she's barely functioning. And some days are better than others, but for the most
Mm.
part, she is just hanging on. And I said to her one day, and she's trying to go to a nursing home to see somebody else. And I said,
Oh my goodness.
you're trying to make your rounds to help people with their bandages that are hanging off, and your own bandages are hanging off. I said, you're
Right?
running around. Yes. I said, that is literally what's happening. I said, but that's okay. You're not alone. I said, it is so funny that women think that they can run around trying to bandage everybody else, and our bandages are just hanging off.
I don't know what gives us that strength to say, you know what, I can minimize what I'm feeling right now. Carol needs me more than I need myself. Hey, excuse me, we hear this every time we are traveling. Take care of
Ah,
yourself. If there's any disturbance, use your mask before you help somebody else. Even if it's your child, use your mask before so
yes,
that you can keep both of you alive. If you use your mask for the person before you use yours, you will be dead. But if you use yours before that person, both of you will be alive. So, and I know that you mentioned that your ideal clients, they are 50s, and I know that some of them, some caregivers listening to us, they are not even up to 50 and they have carried this weight on themselves. We're still talking about self care. We're still talking about self care, and everybody is talking about self care. So, if everybody is talking about self care, somebody is not listening, right? So, what are some warning signs that an individual is heading toward burnout so that they can listen to us talking about self care?
first of all, excellent question. I learned that if you feel as though you are parched or you are dehydrated, if you think you're headed towards dehydration and you go to get a drink of water, if you're just thinking about it, you're already dehydrated. And so I say to women caregivers, you're right. And I didn't share that in the beginning. I work with women caregivers 50 and older. But we
Yes.
as women face that period. And let me share this. I am going to answer your question, of course. But this is a huge problem. And the reason that we think that we can do the reverse, put the mask on someone else and keep running, and we haven't even put on our own, is
Mhm.
because we were taught that. I have
Oh.
learned, when I say I've learned so much about myself, this is what I mean in part. When I reflect back on my childhood, even, and follow my life experience all the way to present day, I
Mm.
see so many women having given their lives. I
Mm.
don't mean that figuratively.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, many have passed, and one of the ones I'll share later because I don't want to get off track, but I have seen this and I see it with my clients. I see it with prospects when I talk to them. I see it just encircles the women. And when I say back to my childhood, my parents divorced when I was young, a preteen.
Mm.
My brother and I would come home from school. My job was to make sure the kitchen was cleaned up if it wasn't already clean. If there was laundry, I had to make sure I hung out the clothes on the line. I don't know how many listening are aware of clotheslines, but back then
Me.
it wasn't on them in the clothes dryer, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That was my
Yep.
job. I
Mhm.
had household chores. My brother had a chore: take out the trash. Now, I've never been one not to question things. Inquiring minds want to know. I've always questioned. I wanted to know, why was my list so much longer than
Longer.
his? My response, the response that was given me, was because I was the girl and I had the girl duties. And my entire rearing was like that. And so all these messages from society. So
Yes.
when you ask, and women are there wondering, why is it we do this?
Mm.
Society has said, you're supposed to, because you're the female.
Wow.
And it has become
Wow.
so ingrained in us, we don't recognize and we don't stop and question. We don't stop and ask, in whose best interest is this?
Yeah.
And then explore that and really start to make independent, first of all, ask healthy questions, make an independent assessment, and do what is in the best interest of all. We have not done that. If you are anywhere near just feeling exhausted, whether you're
Hmm.
50, 80, or 20,
Yeah.
and you're feeling as though nobody gets it, why is everything on me? Can I do all of this? Well, I want this, this, and this, and no one seems to be helped. If you're feeling any of that, and it's going to boil down to, I can use certain words: stress, burnout,
Mm. Yeah.
overwhelm, even
Hmm.
frustration. I've been there. The frustration, because it seems like others are living their lives and you are left with trying to live your life along with carrying other people along as well to help them live theirs. And it seems as though you're feeling alone. If you're feeling alone, like the bag has been left with you
Mm.
and you're exhausted,
Yeah.
thoughts about what you have to do, how you're feeling, are keeping you up at night.
Mm.
If your health isn't what it could or should be, that is one of my biggest concerns. One of the things
Yes.
I talk about so often, and I just mentioned a while ago, I've seen too many illnesses, diseases, and deaths as a result of
Yes.
stress that manifests. And we're just thinking, oh, someone got something and now they're going to the hospital, now they're being treated, now they're going to the doctor. You didn't just get it. You didn't just get
Hmm.
your body.
Yeah. It's a process.
It is.
It's a process. Yeah. Look, this self-care is a topic that is so big, and we need it to be said. We need it to be repeated, because as you are talking, I'm like, okay, she's talking to me. Did she, because it's not a one-time thing that oh, I took it now. Is we just have to be sensitive to how we are feeling. We have to be honest in processing our feeling and telling ourselves, it's okay, this is how I'm feeling, but I don't have to be stuck there, so that down the road, then some illnesses will show up, then I'll be sick and all that. So I just have two more questions so that we'll round up. Many of our listeners, they are navigating life transitions. And we know there are so much in them that they are not processing, or they are unable to process. So, what advice would you give someone trying to care for others while building their own business or their own legacy, so that they will not feel hatred for the other person? It was because of you I didn't build my business. It was you made me not to follow my legacy. You made me not to follow my dreams. How can you help them to navigate that process?
Yes. First and foremost, we have to know, we have to be honest. We
Mm,
are responsible for our own lives.
mm,
So the decisions that we make, the choices that we make, we need to take ownership of them.
mm.
Now, what that means is because you're caring for someone else, but you made the decision
Yes.
what you want to do, we cannot honestly, truthfully blame our decision on someone else just because we're trying to care for them, right?
Mhm. Yes.
So it is very important whether we're trying to build a business, grow a business, scale that business, do anything, and balance navigating the care for someone else, for your children, for your parents, for anyone else needing care. You still have to balance. And I will share this with you. It just came up just this week in a session with someone, with a client. She is running, I don't know. I'm so exhausted. She said,
Mm.
when I tell you I'm falling asleep at work, just and she said something and she said, no, literally. I said, I get it. I believe you. But here's the thing. Where are you building into your own schedule your joy? She said, but I don't have
Right?
time. I said, you're missing something
Ooh.
here. And I'm not calling names, but I still want to be careful because I always want to protect people's confidence. She was, during our session, I love her to death. She's so creative. During our session, she was in her car
Mm.
for our Zoom call session
Mhm.
while her mother was inside a facility for an appointment. I said to her, you don't have time. This from the lady who is sitting in a car for our session
Mm.
while your mother is inside for an appointment. I say the same commitment that you have
Yes.
for her care, your children's care, your husband's care, everybody else's care. And I went on to name all the things that I know that she has done and is still doing. You need to give that same kind of commitment of care to yourself. And so,
Wow.
in order not to blame other people, it might sound like tough love, but in the beginning, I told you, you are loved. And if it wasn't
Yes.
love, if I didn't care, I wouldn't be here. So, this is what you need to know, and I share it out of love. You have got to be honest with yourself. And honest means it was your choice and your decision, but you can make a healthier one, but you have to be just as honest about that decision and choice. So, yes, you have to take someone to an appointment. You have to do A, B, and C. But the same way that you found the time to do that, when you find the time to lock in on a schedule, I do mean lock it in, not if I get to it. The same way that you
Mhm.
would schedule a doctor's appointment, you schedule time to do something that brings you joy. And I tell you this, and if you don't believe me, you can research it. But when you build in what brings you joy, you're energizing yourself. And so, whereas you were feeling so exhausted and all that fatigue that you cannot imagine moving forward, building that business, the more you
Yes.
build in some of that, it balances you out emotionally and physically
Hmm.
and mentally. The more that you do, you will find yourself able to do the things that you truly want to do. But you got to be honest about and own these are your choices and decisions and start to make some different. And be honest
Wow.
that it's not someone else's responsibility
Mhm.
for the choices and
Mhm.
decisions that you make.
Definitely. I love what you said because we are quick to blame. It's you. You did it. But I allowed you. I gave you permission to do it.
Yes.
So, and you mentioned one word also, balance.
Yes.
Look, balance is not, just as self care is not one and done. So, balance. And there's no one size fits all. That
That's
is
right.
why you have to make that commitment to yourself.
Yes.
If what is pulling you, if the calling of a business is so real and you feel it in your spirit, as Carol said, it's a spiritual thing, you feel it in your spirit, then you have to be honest with yourself and take responsibility on how you allocate your time. It doesn't mean that if Carol has 1 hour to spend on a particular thing, I might not have that 1 hour. But when I lock my 15 minutes, I lock it in, and just that 15 minutes, what that 15 minutes would do for your self care, for your mental health, for even the plan towards building your business or a new career, or you want to pivot, that one is even hard. You want to pivot and you are going through all that. So balance is really important. And you want to say something?
Yes. In fact, let me add this as well. So we don't have time for me to go into all of this, but let me assure you, if you're listening to this, please know this. I was pivoting.
Mm,
I had to balance.
mm,
I suffered the health issue.
mm,
I thought I was taking care of me. All of these, everything, that's how, when I said in the beginning, I did not have a blueprint. I did not have a map.
mhm,
Everything I
mhm.
created came as a result of my own experience,
Yes.
my own ulcers, and months and years of healing inside out. And there had to
Mm,
be a plan. I had to establish those boundaries. I said no
mm,
to friends who were in the early days. I made them responsible for my ulcers. In the early days, I made my receiver of my care responsible for my frustrations and my sleepless nights.
oh,
I had to change the story. That meant changing my journey. That meant having a plan. And that meant focusing on me so that it could work for everybody, not everybody else at my expense. And
mm,
yes, self care, the caregiver journey, entrepreneur, the woman
mm,
who is caring for everybody. This is
mm.
a daily ritual. To this
Yes.
day, I still have to practice because I tell you this, look at it this way. Do you have meals every day? Yes, you have to nourish yourself physically every day.
Every day.
Do you bathe every day? Yes, you have to cleanse, you have to replenish. The same goes for your spiritual and mental well being.
Yes.
As you said, no, it's not a one and done. This is consistent, and I would hope and I encourage ritualistic daily care.
Yes.
If it is 15 minutes a day, you take it. If you have an hour, great. Whatever it is, you need to build it in consistently. Because if you're
Yes.
feeling any of what I described earlier, you're already
Mm.
on your way to wearing yourself out. And who wants to, that is not living. I was going to say, who wants to live like that? But that's not living.
No,
That's
no,
existing. Yeah.
that's not living. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This is so rich. The conversation is so rich. I hope you will come back. I know you are redoing some stuff. So I hope you will come back early next year so that you share the new things you are working on with us. So where can our listeners find you if they decide they want to work with you? If they decide they want to join your community of caregivers, where can they find you?
Please look for me on my website. That's CarolLStokes.com. CarolLSTokes.com. And as Boomy just, oh, thank you, very generously just mentioned, I do have some new things coming. So
Yes,
come back and see us on my website after the
yes.
first part of the year. Even if you visit us now, because there's more coming. There are group meetings, don't cost you a penny. You come, and these are fireside chats that I love to have with women once a month. And we are resuming in January.
Yes.
There's a Caregivers blueprint that you can download just to get started with some tips and to get you started on your peace plan. But I would love for you to come check us out. And I'm wishing you have no idea. This is my mission. This is not my job. This is my mission.
I can see the passion. I can see because look, myself and Carol, we have weekly one-on-one that we do. We're accountability partners. So I know her passion. I know this is what she's passionate about. So we will have her website. We'll have the link for you to grab the peace plan or for you to be part of the community so that you can receive the emails. Those emails, when I read them, it's just like, oh, how did she know that this is what I need? So that is really amazing. So if you are a caregiver and you are ready to break the burnout cycle and reclaim your peace, you really want to plug into what Carol is doing and also to become one of her clients, because lived experiences together with passion, amazing. So I really appreciate you, Miss Carol, for pouring your heart in this episode. And there's something that Miss Carol said as we round up. She said when she started, there was no blueprint. And it's just like you want to build a house and you don't have a blueprint. You don't know where the bathroom needs to be, where the kitchen needs to be, where the circuit breaker needs to be, where is the garage. You have no idea. You see how hard that is? It's really very hard. So if you are thinking of starting a new business and there's no blueprint, look, this is why Carol is saying, I have lived the experience. Let me walk you through. And I have also said that if you are starting a business and you want to transition from your corporate job where you have been very successful or not, but you want to transition into entrepreneurship, I want to share my blueprint with you because I've been there. So there's a blueprint. And I really want you to look at a link because in January, there will be a webinar where we will have 30 days of clarity and confidence and action to really move the needle and start your business, even while you still have your job in the corporate world. So I want you to also go through the link and be on the wait list for that event. Look, you can prioritize yourself at the same time care for other people. You can prioritize yourself at the same time transition into whatever you want to go into, whatever business. You can prioritize yourself and still feel that the fulfillment of helping somebody else, because that is what we all want to do. We want to help somebody else. So prioritize your peace, prioritize yourself, prioritize what will set your soul on fire. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to Create Your Own Economy with Bunmi Ajibade. I hope this episode gave you the clarity and inspiration to take the next step in your entrepreneurial journey. If you're a corporate professional feeling stuck or unfulfilled, and you are thinking about starting your own business, but find yourself asking, how, what, where, who, or when, I invite you to download my special curated guide, Transition from Corporate Professional to Entrepreneur, the 10-step guide for success. This guide is designed to make your transition smoother and less stressful. Afterward, schedule a clarity call to map out your personalized success path. We invite you to write a review, like, and share this episode with anyone who needs this information. See you in the next episode.